I'm going to keep it a stack. I don't even have the wherewithal for a monologue today.
Let's give them something to talk about. How about love? Love is good. I can't dig it.
Okay, so I know the question is like, how did we get here, right? Like, I'm pretty sure this all started with the internet. And the internet started to like make its way for real, like in the 1960s, but it didn't blow up until the late 90s into the early 2000s, which is essentially my childhood into adolescence, into high school, into young adulthood. And it's been bumpy, if I can be honest. Anybody who is between the ages of, I'd say 30 and 48, maybe. So like maybe your late 20s into your early 50s. We have seen some shit. And I cannot understand how no one else, it just feels like everybody else is like, oh, business as usual. We're going to nuclear war, business as usual. No big deal. Just a crazy person in office, just doing all manners of wrong things, wrongdoing to the people that serve it, to the people that pay taxes, to the people that get up and work every day. No big deal. You millennials, you guys are just overreacting. You millennials, you guys are lazy and you're stupid. I'm tired. I am so tired. This year alone, we are literally coming to the end of June. We are only 6 months in. This man has been ruining our lives, more like it, for, when he was in there the last time, he was ruining stuff. But here we are now, 6 months. In 6 months, the amount of chaos that has happened is unfathomable. And not just with him, a government official, right? We're also talking about just worldly, cultural things that have just been absolutely insane. And I just want to take an opportunity today to talk to my fellow millennials, to maybe give some insight to our Gen Xers, to our boomers. I highly doubt you guys will listen, because if we can have an honest conversation, you guys struggle with the listening portion. It's the listening and the retaining information. It's quite difficult for you guys. I also want to reason with the Gen Z people. And I hope, if there is still ground for us to walk on in the coming of days, my Gen Alpha and for my baby, Gen Beta, I hope you guys can hear me when I say that millennial people have been living in unprecedented times for the last 40 to 50 years straight. It hasn't let up. We can take it all the way back to Napstar. That was the whole thing. So like the changing of being able to buy CDs over, I used to have a whole CD pack. I had a whole CD pack. I used to love the artwork. I would take out the little cover and I would look at I want to see all the CD artwork. I want to read the credits. I'm so intertwined with who did what. And it was such a monumental time for me. And then somebody said, there's an easier way. Let's figure out how we can download the music that we want without having to leave our house. Or if we don't want to wait, maybe I don't want to maybe I only like one song off of this album. Let me download the album and see if I like it before I buy it, which in theory, of course, for us makes sense. However, We don't realize how deeply detrimental that is for the people who make the music. And of course, chaos ensues. Okay, so chaos ensues. People are getting arrested for trafficking music, hijacking music, ripping it, downloading X amount of things. There's fines going around. So that was like, I was in high school, maybe the end of middle school, top of high school. We're talking like the beginning of MySpace era. That's where I was with that. Also, 1999 into 2000, like everyone thought the world was going to end. So that was a whole thing. Like, oh my God, 2000. And, you know, people were having signs on their lawns like, you know, you need to pray to God and repent because when the year 2000 comes, it's over. It's like, okay. So then it was like, after they said that for 2000, then later on they said that for 2012, but we'll get to there as well. Now, the other thing that happened in 8th grade going into high school for me, not to mention Aaliyah passing, which was a terrible, heartbreaking thing. Aaliyah passed in the summer of 2001, if I'm not mistaken. And she had just, and I mean literally just put out Rock the Boat. She had a new album coming out. We had been fans all this time. She had escaped that monster. She was on her way to being Rihanna, on her way to being, you know, there's always this century-long argument of Aaliyah was our first Beyonce, but I that's another. I don't even have the bandwidth to even get into that today. But be that as it may, beautiful Black woman who was our star, our icon. We all wanted that deep side part, the cool outfits. We grew up with her. It was just kind of like she was a little older than us, obviously, but she was still a millennial. She was all of the things that we just loved about that young Black girls got excited about, you know, like eventually I'll get older and I get to be Aaliyah. She dies August 25th, 2001. It is a shock to millennials, specifically Black women millennials, but honestly, it was a global, we were all like, what the fuck just happened here? Like, I don't know if that should have been the sign. I don't know if that should have made us stop and look around and be like, things are about to get shaky. But that started it. Aaliyah passes August 25th, 2001. Very shortly after that, and I mean like weeks later. Let's see exactly how many weeks later, if I could just be accurate. Upwards of 1, 2, 3 weeks later, as I am sitting in my 8th grade English class, this is at the beginning of school. Now we are watching the 9/11 terrorist attacks on television. I remember not fully understanding what was happening the period before we got to English. And I was in band class and I was with my homie, John Kwashi. Shout out to John Kwashi. I remember his exact outfit. He had on a pair of overalls. He had on a t-shirt and he had this like blue Hawaiian shirt that he would wear over top. And I remember he came in. I remember it was a day that we didn't feel like doing much. I feel like Mr. Hill, that's our band teacher, was like, there's a lot going on today. We're not going to be doing nothing. You know, you guys, we can kind of just chill. And it's weird because sometimes, you know how this is a little random, but like sometimes like the first day of school sometimes feels like the last day of school. But be that as it may, it was very early. It was like second period that we had English, and next thing you know, we were watching it, and our English teacher was like, we are under attack and I do not feel safe, which might not be the best choice of words to say to all of your 8th graders, but you know, at the time I probably would have said something very similar. I remember bursting into tears, crying, And a lot of my friends were really concerned about their parents because their parents were working in the city, and people were coming. My mom came to pick me up, if I'm not mistaken. And, I was like very I remember I was crying as if like my parents were anywhere near that, me not thinking about it. I'm just thinking in my, I'm 13. So in my brain, it's like the whole world is on fire. Like if they are attacking these things, what makes me think that, they're not going to get my dad in Elizabeth, New Jersey, or my mom here or there or wherever. And, when I think about it now, it's like I was absolutely being a 13-year-old, but I started like bawling, crying. They called my sister. My sister is younger than me, so they call her out of where she's at. If I'm in 8th grade, that means she's in 6th grade. So she comes to find me, and she's like, "Why?" She's like, "I know it's sad, friend, but why are you crying? Our parents are probably okay." So just so many things. And it felt scary. It was kind of like my teenager-year-old brain was like, what do you mean we are under attack? Like people are trying to hurt us? What does that even look like? Like I've heard of course, now 8th grade is about the time where you start to learn about like Civil War and the Revolutionary War. Pretty much how America came to be and all that, all the ways that we fight. But we hadn't quite gotten to Vietnam War yet. We hadn't quite gotten to like Black Panther movement, the Civil Rights movement. I had known about the Civil Rights movement for sure, but that was the beginning of that discussion. So for me, it's like, oh, we've done all these wars before. We don't have to do this again. We're done. So to see it like in real time for a child is kind of like what's happening. Also, I remember that's back when radio was super big still. And I'm from northeastern New Jersey. So we're listening to Hot 97. We're listening to 107.5 BLS. We're listening to 98.7 KISS FM. We're listening to Z100. Those KTU sometimes. Those are our core radio stations. And I remember Angie Martinez got on the radio and, as best as she could was kind of like, yo, we are like, everybody's systems are down. This is what just kind of fully updating us. It was my first understanding of a national crisis. It was my first understanding of, political affairs, socioeconomic affairs, what that looks like. And then this was my first introduction into, how the president is, what does it mean to be president? What does it mean to be a government official? What does it mean like when these things happen? And I remember this was also the beginning of people making jokes because it was like the response from our president at the time was laughable almost. It was like they kept running the footage back of him he was like having a, reading children's books to like a elementary school class, and someone had come in and whispered in his ear that these things had happened. And the look on his face was kind of like the look on your face when, you are in the middle of giving your valedictorian speech or any kind of speech for that matter, and you get a text message of, your BFF taking a picture of your boyfriend tongue kissing his frog in the middle of the street. I don't know, but it's just one of those looks of like, all right, what am I supposed to do with that information? And so that of course brings us to like mixed feelings, right? So it's just kind of like, is this funny or is this not funny? Like, I know we're making light of it because it's scary, but like something very terrible is happening, and like we don't know what's going to happen next. So then very shortly after that, eventually we kind of start the year. Actually, I don't think I was in 8th grade. I think I was in 7th grade. I can't remember. No, I was in 8th grade. Yeah, we graduated in 2002. I was in 8th grade. Sorry, I was in 8th grade. So by the time we moved from we moved from 9/11. Everyone's still kind of like feeling the brunt of it throughout the year. It comes up a lot. All matters of programming and the like. Then, let me see. When did Lisa Left-Eye Lopez pass? Because that was also a shock to our system. Very shortly after that, in April, that's correct. In April, she passes. Lisa Left-Eye Lopez passes, which is like incredibly strange to us all because like, what do you mean? And unfortunately, she had passed right around the anniversary of the Columbine School Massacre, which happened in 1999, just a few short years before all of this had happened. So we're all kind of on pins and needles, right? Like, what is this place? And we don't really know. I'm telling you, what I was doing in 7th and 8th grade in middle school this is, of course, puberty time. This is, getting all your grades together. I'm in the All-American Scholar book. I had braces. I had crushes out the wazoo. I was being made fun of. My biggest issue was I left my sneakers home that day for gym, and then I didn't want to get like a check minus or a failing grade for gym that day or whatever. I was still trying to figure out algebra. This is what's happening on the outside of the world when I'm literally like moving into my later teenage years. Like, this is the top of teenagery. This is like, I just put up my Spice Girl shoes and traded those in for my Destiny's Child outfit, right? So this is the beginning of MacBooks being cool. This is the beginning of the internet, as we were saying before. So, I'm a kid, literally a kid, like, as this is happening. And it just seems to get a little bit worse even after that, right? Like it just didn't get to seem to let up. I'm sure there's a host of different things in between there, right? But very shortly after that is when we get to high school. Now, by the time we get to high school, our parents, most of our parents are either boomers or Gen Xers. Now, boomers and Gen Xers had their own stuff going on, if you ask me, right? They had their own boomers. Boomers were the children of the silent generation. And silent generation literally just didn't talk about anything that was going on, despite the fact that they were going through a lot of different things. They were going through if you were living in the South, we're talking about like your house is being burnt down simply because you're black, or you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're putting you in jail simply because you're black. It's just, there's a lot of racial tension and strife that's public. And we are every day finding new ways to survive, and every way finding new ways to kind of, maneuver through society. So boomers have a very what I would consider pragmatic. Let me see if I'm using that word correctly. You ever use words and they sound good, but they don't know. I don't know if that's right. Relating to matters of fact and practical affairs, often to the exclusion of intellect. Okay. Yes. So they have a very pragmatic way of thinking. It's okay. Listen, so your boomer people, their parents did the best that they could by giving them, skills to survive. The silent generation was more like, figure out how to assimilate with white culture, right? Let's figure out how to maybe not necessarily be more like them, but it's like, let's see how we can just kind of blend in. And if we can blend in, no one will notice us. No one will see us. We can just kind of move along and they will see that I'm just like them. And we can just, if we're quiet, then we can move past it. Boomers, and here's what's interesting about the boomers that were on the right side of things, and even some that weren't. Boomers were your generation of people that started to say, hey, wait a minute. I'm not about to conform to anything. I'm not about to, stick with what you're telling me just for the sake of doing so, right? However, even though that's what they thought, that's what they wanted to do, there still was a lot of restriction as it relates to how they can move through society. I feel like my mom has said to me several times, like, their whole thing was, when you go for your job interview, look like somebody that they would want to hire. And then after you get your job, do what you want. And I'll explain in a second how that's been different for us after the fact. But your boomers are, they were in high school they graduated high school in 1975. So they are the 60s and the 70s. Those are your revolutionary periods. People are starting to experiment with psychedelic drugs. People are protesting. Black people are getting more comfortable wearing their natural hair. This is where we see, a lot of people's friends are like going off to the Vietnam War, and that's a whole nother thing. And that's a whole issue. And then so they're raised in this kind of like the uprising, if you will. Like it started in the 50s and 60s, and now that's when they were children. And so now they're moving into their young adulthood, and things are starting to change. Maybe not fast enough, but they are starting the precipice of like, okay, we're tired of this bullshit. You guys are sending children to go fight wars that don't nobody want to be in but you. And you guys are still not seeing Black and brown people as human beings. All of this strife in between that. 1968 is when, let me make sure, 1968 is when Martin Luther King dies. And so that just is assassinated. And so it's just, there's so much, right? So your boomers are carrying a lot of the things that we see, a lot of stuff that we learn about in our history books as it relates to the Civil Rights Movement, to the Black Panther movement. A lot of the boomers have seen. Then the boomers more than likely either have Gen X children or they have millennial children, right? Depending on what their life was and all that. So after the Civil Rights Movement, after Black people are thriving and making it and trying to make a difference and preaching the good word of we can be who we are and still be functional members of society, if not even beyond that, is when the crack epidemic hits. And so now people who were once working and thriving and are now caught up with the wrong stuff. And if they're caught up with the wrong stuff, that means that their children are suffering or they're suffering. And of course, it's being administered in places that are specific to Black and brown people and all of that. So the children of these people, right? Millennials are the children of boomers and Gen Xers. These are people that are already carrying so much from what they've seen, from what they've experienced, from the lives that they've experienced, from the, not to their credit, they have also experienced some wild shit in this country as well. However, The difference in generation is how they handle it after the fact. A lot of our Gen Xers and our boomers are still blaming us for why things are the way they are now. A lot of our boomers and Gen Xers were like, well, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we've always, this is how we did it before. And it worked before. And so because it worked before, it needs to work now, or that's the way it should be. And millennial people are like, well, wait a minute. You guys are the ones that told us to go back and do the research. You guys are the ones that told us we had to be twice as smart, twice as equipped. We needed to know all the stuff in order for us to move forward, in order for us to, be, not just be members of society, but to make the change. And I find that boomers and Gen Xers specifically will double down on the things that don't make sense. And they won't heal, or they don't want to heal in a way that makes sense for everybody. So for example, so many times I will talk to people in their 50s, people in their 50s, 60s, because the boomers are moving into their 70s. Some of them are in their 80s. And the Gen Xers will say, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Or I didn't want to bother anybody. So I just, suffered through it. And it's just kind of like, why? So bringing back to the timeline, I'm bringing this up because by the time I get to high school, it is now time for us to find the most prestigious high school we can find. Because if we can find a prestigious high school, if your kid goes to a good high school, right, that means that betters their chances to going to a good college. If they can go to a good college, that means they will find a good paying job that will allow them to take care of themselves, that will allow them to grow, and we can all move past this, right? Raise your hand if you're in the car or if you're at home. How many of us were sold the dream that college was going to be the thing that changed our lives? And let me stop right here. I'm a person that holds 2 degrees. And I think that I wouldn't be able to do the things that I needed to do had I not gone to college in hindsight. However, if I really believed in myself, I'll take some accountability here. And if I had really believed in myself, and if I was fully taught the business acumen before high school or even during high school, I think I would have, I might have still gone to college, but I probably would have chosen differently as it relates to what I studied in college. I would have also probably have paid more attention to what colleges and how I got in there, and maybe have taken that a bit more seriously. I think at that time, like a lot of us, it was the pressure of just going to college, figuring out, fully knowing who you were and what you were going to do at 18, which now at 37 is asinine. Completely asinine, completely derailed thinking, because what are you talking about? I have no idea who I am or what I'm supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I live with you, parents. I see the same people every day. I'm still trying to navigate being a person. I don't even know how to do that. And I have all these huge cultural things that I'm arguing with people about. This is like when Carrie, what was his name? There was a gentleman, Kerry. That's like the only name that's coming up to me. But he was going against George W. Bush, and that was a whole thing. And it was like people were arguing and screaming at the academies at Inglewood, and we're having debates, and you realize people are raised race. It's just nuts. Nutty things are happening. I'm in this school that is a giant social experiment. And every day I'm feeling the brunt of that with teachers that are clearly racist, with people from outside other towns that are also clearly racist. So like, this is a personal part of my experience, but like high school for a lot of millennials was, especially in the Northeast, specifically in like northeastern New Jersey and New York City, it's like, it's imperative to your parents that your education is top tier. If your education is top tier, it'll be one of the many tools you can use to navigate this crazy ass place, right? I don't disagree with that. I do think there should be a way. I think there's a different way a different approach that we can have so that children don't have to feel so disconnected and they don't have to feel so pressured to jump into that. But that's another story for another day. Essentially, it's like, we need to get you into college. We need to get you an internship. We need to make sure your resume is lit. We need to find you a college. You're going to take out these student loans. And after we take out these student loans, that's what's going to pay for college. And that's it. And it's like, okay, we all bought into that. We're all going to go to college. This is going to be, our ticket. Once we go to college, we'll be able to find a job. And once we find a job, we'll be able to finally have some independence and be able to, start adulthood. And then I graduated 2006. I went to Johnson Wales University. And very shortly after that, the stock market crashed in 2008, which was insane because it was not just the stock market, it's the housing crisis. There was a full-on nosedive as it related to the stock market crash. And it happened because Congress rejected the bank bailout bill, which, the banks weren't doing great things. If you had a debit card at that time and you were under Bank of America specifically, that's around the time where they were doing overdraft fees up the wazoo. You would work at the mall or work wherever. But for me, it's like you work at the mall, you put your paycheck in, and God forbid you forgot, you go out and buy yourself a pair of earrings from Claire's. And next thing you know, you find yourself getting yourself a few things because you deserve it. Because you worked hard, you were in school, you're trying to get your, it's summer. And next thing you know, you go up to your bank and it's like negative $100 because overdraft fee. It's like everybody was doing everything they can to find cash. So now we're in college. And a lot of us are in college not realizing that we are in college off the strength of a loan that our parents got for us to pay for college. Now, you had to fill out your FAFSA, you had to go to financial aid, you had all the stuff that was getting you into college, right? It was just like, here we are, literally, people are taking out, I remember parents were taking out extra mortgages, all types of stuff. But no real discussion about how we're going to pay it back. No real discussion of understanding like, okay, well, you get your job and they just kind of paint it as if you'll go to college, you'll do well in college, and you'll be coming out making $100,000 a year. That's the way it goes. And it didn't work like that at all. A lot of us millennials were not only struggling in college, but deeply, deeply struggling after college. Some of us are still struggling right now because of how college was set up for us and how college was the dream that was sold to us, that college was going to fix all of our issues. And it just didn't. It's not to say that. So I say that, right? And then if you were to say that to a boomer or a Gen Xer, the response typically is you're just lazy. Never an ask, like, what do you mean by that? But they just boil it down to you just didn't want to do that. You just didn't want to work hard. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I worked hard for those SATs. And me with the test taking at that time was awful. I had no idea that I had ADHD. I was a terrible test taker. I was like a incredibly smart person, but work was so much for me because it was just kind of like, I don't have the patience for this. I don't feel like doing this. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know why we're talking about this stuff. Like some classes I was fully tuned into. Other classes, it was like, I don't like this teacher. She's racist. So now it's hard for me to listen to anything that she's saying because I don't believe a thing that's coming out of her mouth. She's not even looking at my work. She's not giving me any kind of guidance. She doesn't like me. I don't like her. And that's the relationship that we have. It's pretty much like, we're not talking about growth per se. You're not really explaining anything. You're just kind of saying like, I don't like this person. This person is obviously not smart because she's Black, and just kind of cutting me off there. So I didn't really have a lot of that. I had some teachers that were cool, but like high school was academically didn't start getting good until about junior year. By that time, it's a bit late. You get to college, and college is cool, but I picked a college that when you talk about I went to Johnson Wales University. Now, like when I talk about it to other people now, they're like, oh my God, what a great school. But at the time, it just kind of felt random. I just was kind of like, I don't want to be in musical theater or an actress because I'm not going to get paid. I'm going to be living at home with my crazy parents forever. I don't want to do that. And so it's like, I would like to learn the entertainment business so that I can be smart about it, so that I don't end up like, TLC or any other host of artists out here that work so hard, put out all this great music, and then literally are driving around in hoopties. Like, I didn't want to do that. So all that to say, I'm like kind of going around. And the reason why I'm going around in circles is like, that's how a lot of us are feeling right now. All over the place. Because we're only in 2008. 2008 is damn near 30 years ago. Like 2008, the stock market crashes, and that's the whole thing. So by the time I get out of college in 2010, there's not a lot of jobs that I can find that are well within my reach. You needed an internship of some kind, and like even applying for those internships or being accepted to those internships were incredibly hard in college. So now you're just kind of taking whatever job you can get. I was lucky enough to be a executive assistant to a marketing executive. And still not that great, but we're making it. But by that time, we are still in the middle of this, because right after the 9/11 thing, then it moved into the war on terror. And then it was like, we're at war with Iraq, and that lasted for much too long. And I remember actually being at my desk at my job at the marketing firm, and they announced that Osama bin Laden had been found, and they had assassinated him, and all of what that looked like. And so it was kind of like, okay, an end of the era. Like maybe we can breathe a little bit. Maybe everybody can calm down. But no such luck. Just not the way of the world. So by that time, let's see, that's like 2010 maybe ish. That's a little bit after that. By this time, I think I had transferred from Johnson & Wales. I had transferred from Johnson & Wales, Rhode Island to Johnson & Wales, Miami in like 2008-ish. So that's around the time that Barack Obama was coming into the office. And that was a big deal because this is the first time ever we have seen a person of color, not just a black person, but a person that is brown, that is black, that is like making it all the way to the presidency. So that was incredible for us. And then after that, during his presidency was when Osama bin Laden had been assassinated. And that was a whole thing. I remember that Barack Obama voting process, that election very vividly. And it was, you know, a life-changing moment for us all. It was supposed to be the first time that we were able to vote as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, or 20-year-old. I think I was 20. 2008. Yeah, I was 20. So it was the first time I could like vote in a major election. And it was just like, oh, I feel great. I feel involved. And you know, we're doing something here. And then he won and it felt great. And it just was like they were still being super racist to him and not believing that he could do what he said, even though he won the election. Then very shortly after that was Chris Brown and Rihanna. And I remember being in my dorm room watching the Grammys and then being like, yep, Chris Brown and Rihanna aren't here because they just got in a major fight. And it was like, all right. And so that was that. As you can see, I'm trying to like go in between, like not just like global stuff, but also cultural stuff, because these are the things that we are ingesting as when my child gets to be 10 and he's like, you know, what did you experience during your time? It's like, we don't have enough time to talk about it. Just nutty, crazy, terrible things. Move past all this and we're seemingly being okay. And then in 2016, somehow Donald Trump becomes president. And thus starts a very strange life. Very shortly after that was Corona. We haven't gotten to any of the diseases yet, right? In between here, it's like swine flu, it's H1N1. And of course, when 2016 hits into 2017 is when we get COVID, and COVID fully rocks everybody's world because it is the first time ever where they literally shut the world down. Can't go outside. You gotta wear a mask if you do go outside. It's time for you to get your shots and stuff. And they can't figure out. Some people don't want the vaccine, and now you got all these people like, it's not a real virus. It's the radiation. It's the something about the people who were talking about radiation for COVID. It was like, please leave me alone, because if you expect me to believe that it's because of the 5G, it's like, oh, you know, they don't have the 5G networks and they didn't fix it, and that's why we're getting a corona. It's like, guys, that 5G is a technical issue and coronavirus is a germ, and none of the twine should meet. If you expect me to believe that this is, you know, caused by the internet or the internet connection or the internet network versus people not washing hands and covering their mouths, it just simply doesn't make sense. And so COVID starts at the top of the year of 2020, like legit. And so here we all are afraid for our lives, because there's a deadly sickness that is essentially coughing and sneezing. It's you're like a cold, but now it's like your joints hurt and you can't breathe and the cough is deadly. And so now we have to wear masks every single day. And that's something that we're not used to doing. And not only do we have to wear masks every single day, but we need to stay inside and we need to quarantine. And then it's all these rules about, you have to stay 10 days inside. It just becomes chaos across the board. And then add to that chaos, now all of a sudden, police are taking even more liberties in taking Black lives out of nowhere. Like, not so much out of nowhere, right? Like, let me be very, 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 very crystal clear. Like, that has been the MO since the dawn of time. But it felt like all of a sudden, not like we don't have enough going on. It was like if they feel like Black people are simply existing, they need to intrude and they need to fix it. And so it was literally like once a day, once a week. It was like every time we turn around, somebody else was the victim of police brutality. And thus the Black Lives Matter movement started. So now in the middle of COVID, people are outside protesting with their masks on, trying to keep from being sick, but also trying to protest the system and the government, because these people were not doing anything. Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her house. She was literally not a threat to anyone because she was literally sleeping. It just doesn't make sense. Tatiana Jefferson was playing video games with her nephew. So all of that combined with a crazy person that's in office, and we finally get him out. Vaccines come out. That's a whole other thing, because people are like, I don't need to get vaccinated. I don't want to get vaccinated. Why should I get vaccinated? I don't trust the government and all sorts of stuff. And then arguments back and forth behind that, and just actual, literal, legit chaos. Then we finally, we vote him out. We vote Joe Biden in, and we get a little bit of a relief. And then towards the end of his term, somehow we get involved. Well, not somehow. Israel decides Palestine is tired of the way that Israel is treating them. And so they take some hostages. And then Israel is like, if you're going to take hostages, then we're just going to eradicate your entire country. And that's been going on for about a year and a half now, which brings us to here. And why is this the U.S.'s problem? Well, for one, we supplied the weapons that Israel was able to use to commit genocide to Palestine. But for two, a lot of the police forces get their training from Israel. So it's all connected. And if that was not heavy enough, walking around with, the pain and fear of mass genocide, it's not just happening in Palestine, but also happening in Sudan, we have an opportunity to turn some things around so that people can feel peaceful, so that people can, try and go back to their regular lives, so that we can kind of make a way out of no way. And Elon Musk helps Donald Trump steal the election, and he gets in the office again. And now he's like supersonic. Now he's like Donald Trump, the Turbo Edition. And in just 6 months, we have had we've declared World War III. There are nuclear threats. Now it's like, oh, well, they said that there was a ceasefire and everyone agreed. And it's just like, it doesn't work like that, guys. It doesn't work like that. you know? And I'm bringing I'm in the middle of that. Diddy, it's not even worth. In between all of this, we have other cultural movements, is what I mean to bring up, right? We have the Me Too movement where actresses and women in the industry, or women that are not in the industry, are coming out talking about a lot of our cultural heroes, are people who have made television shows, movie history, music history across our lives that, you know, we've been listening to. It's for creatives, especially. I know for me, and I'll speak for myself, it's not fun to watch all of these people that you once looked up to, or you once like indulged in a lot of their work, and quite frankly, a lot of their work and their creativity inspired you in a lot of ways, and, you know, is the fabric of why you want to do what you want to do. It really is quite heartbreaking to see them go out like that. But then that's the first thing. But the second thing is, and the more important thing is like, I can't understand why or how I'm supposed to simply forgive them or not be annoyed or separate their art from the lives that they kept. The reason why that doesn't always make sense is because in some cases, their art was the life that they kept, right? It's circumventing in the same thing. It's all breathing the same air. It's an ecosystem of which. That might not be the case for everybody, but it is so heartbreaking, because then it's heartbreaking. It's disheartening. You're kind of asking yourself like, well, dang, like, is that all there is? It's just like, if you just get to be rich and famous, is that part of the job description, that you then get to like abuse power and make people afraid of you and take advantage of them in the most horrific ways? Like, that's not what we're all working for this for, right? So it's super hurtful. It doesn't affect how you pay your bills, of course, but it does make you think. Like, it's just super, 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 super disheartening. On top of the actual shit that's going on in everybody's life, right? Meanwhile, there's like PPP loans, and people are like scamming their way for 25 G's, and it's a mess. And to bring it back to right this second, your people who are 30 plus in their late 20s, and again, like early 50s, we're tired, guys. We are so tired. We're tired. We're burnt out. We're tired. And it also feels like we're the only people that are actively trying to heal. Right? If you were to bring up, even right now, with all of the resources, with all of the technology that we have, all of the discussions surrounding mental health, there are still boomers, Gen Xers, and quite frankly, some millennials who just don't believe in talking to somebody. This is a lot to unpack, because we are also just trying to make it to the next day. We are also just trying to put food on our table and survive. A lot of our millennials, myself included, maybe at the top of this list, we are still trying to build a life from when we graduated college and grad school. And that was upwards of 10 years ago. Some of us are still just figuring that out right now. Some of us are like, you know what? I know for me, it's like, all the other places that I was working were not fulfilling. So I have to just carve it out myself. I have to figure it out and figure out who I am and what I'm meant to do, and carve it out my own way and figure it out. And it might not be a W-2 check or a place that has a W-2 where the taxes are paid. I might have to do the 1099s. I might have to invest in a microphone and in a Rodecaster Duo. Wow, that's not the name of that. Rodecaster Duo. I might have to invest myself, but that looks crazy. And it especially looks crazy when the world doesn't support you. I forgot all about Hurricane Katrina in the middle of all this. A racial environmental disaster that displaced hundreds of thousands of people. We're tired, guys. We are so tired. And then you expect us to kind of just suck it up. I'm not sucking it up. I don't have the patience. I don't have the time. If you have millennial children and you feel like the relationship with them is strained, guess what? It probably is. And you need to ask yourself some difficult questions as to why that is. Because millennials do not have the time or the space, the mental bandwidth, the spiritual bandwidth to go back and fully explain to you why we feel the way that we do. I don't have it. Oh, we just blame everything on this and we just blame it. We're just lazy and we don't. Yeah, okay. So we're the problem, but you don't know how to work your phone. Ever. You still confused about sending a text message. You still confused about how to airdrop something. You're still confused on why, certain music can't be downloaded and why you can't just do it the way it once was. The world is a-changing. And I don't know about you, boomers and X-Gen and Gen X, but X-Gen. But the world has been moving and changing and working around us triple time. And we don't have time to go backwards and to explain to you why the way you're going about all this stuff and this phantom blame you have for one generation in particular, as if we started it. It's weird. We don't have time for that. It was the millennial generation that voted Barack Obama in. We are the ones that have wanted change all this time because we are tired of seeing you suffer. We're tired of seeing our families suffer. We're tired of suffering our own goddamn selves. We're tired. Exhausted. I was talking to my friend on Instagram and I put up some posts about the world outside, because I'm not going to hold you. I was already having a busy day. When you have a 2-month-old, your days don't look the same, especially if it's your first child. Every day is new. And I had just asked my husband about something that he did or didn't do. And I come in and I see the breaking news about the bombs that were sent over to Iran. And a couple of days have gone by, so I've put up something about that. And my friend just is like, I have to sign off the internet because it's just too much for my system. But then if I sign off the internet, then I also get the anxiety of what's going to happen next. And I'm the opposite. I can't read it because it's just going to unnerve me. And I'm immediately angry. I'm immediately ready to just get every day. It's I told my husband when he got reelected, we have 1 year before we need to leave this country. And it's not that's really going to do anything, but it's I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. Every single waking moment of our lives is filled with terror. And now I have a new life here that is brand new and doesn't know anything about the craziness. And it's my job to explain to him, the hardships of this world and what that will mean for him and all of that. It's also my job to try and protect him as best as I can. So it's I can't even mentally tap in the way that I should. Because it's like, yo, we are just trying to make it day to day to day to day to day. And while we are trying to making it day to day, of course, a lot of us are still attacking each other. Those of us that have migrated from Twitter to Threads, those of us that are still on Twitter, our conversation pieces, we're talking about restaurants. We're talking about, what's a good restaurant to take somebody? Is it cheap or not? We're talking about relationships. We're talking about diaspora wars. We're talking about whether or not people are good friends. It's like, I can't worry about that right now. I can't worry about that. When I open up my Instagram and I see that, oh, well, yeah, we were talking about the bombing over there, but now the immigrants that were in this country, we're shipping them off to third world countries of which they don't belong to. Like, guys, I think millennials, all we have ever been trying to attain is peace. All we have ever been trying to get is, to a space where we're financially stable and financially free, where we don't have to owe nobody nothing, where we don't have to, listen to our parents whine and berate us and talk down to us and act like we're the problem because we can't find. I kid you not. When I graduated from grad school, I had come home from my second bout of Florida. I had a master's degree. And when I tell you, I could not find a job to save my life. If I'm being frank, if I'm being quite honest with you, I still don't have the job that I was promised coming from getting a master's degree. Now, I will also say, like, where I got the master's degree from, I always talk about how that annoys me, but it used to not even matter. Every single day, my father would come in. Did you find a job yet? Did you find a job yet? Did you find a job? You're not looking hard enough. Did you find... To the point where I ended up at Kidville, and then at my local middle school, and then at my local preschool, and then to the job that I have now. And it's like, we are getting screamed at. We are getting yelled at. We are being the blame. People are... I know I get on here a lot and I talk about the rights for gays and for trans people. You know why? Because they are just people. I remember that hate crime. What was his name? And they tied him to a tree or something horrific like that. I remember that very clearly. I remember how awful that was. I remember in the middle of this time was that giant shooting that happened at a club that I used to be at in Orlando. I remember that. We're all the same age. We've seen it happen. It's not to say that there haven't been monumentally good things that have happened all this time, but it's overshadowed by the tremendous amount of grief and strife. Why are people getting shot up in the club just because of who they like to be with? Why do I have to lose my life behind that? Why are trans people being killed for simply being who they are and being ridiculed for wanting to go to the bathroom? The bathroom. The actual bathroom. A bodily function that every human being has. What's up? I'm still being killed and shot up and pulled over and killed, and my family's going through all this terribleness simply because I'm black. There is nothing that I can guarantee you, black people are not out here doing stuff that warrants us having to be leaned on with a knee to our throat. We keep saying you don't care about black bodies because you don't. You don't care about anybody. You don't care about any living human being. You just care about yourself, and we are just supposed to follow suit. And I'm here to tell you that if there is any group of people who's tired of that excuse and tired of that's just the way it is, and extremely tired of, well, you need to figure, oh, no. That blame, you need to figure out, what are you doing that, get out of my face. What are you doing, boomer, Gen Xer? I can barely get you guys to own up to the fact that the people are terrible. I can barely get y'all to take accountability for your own things, for your own children, for your own ways that you talk to people, for your own anti-blackness, for your own iniquities. All you know how to do is blame. That's all you know how to do. And we're tired. And that's why when you hear people say, like, look, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm not coming out to the and now we're in a space where it's just like, if you don't protest, if you don't go out there, if you don't boycott, then you're complicit and you're part of the problem. And it just, it'll always persist because there's always one person that just doesn't agree. But it's just like, I don't know what else people want us to do. I just don't know what else you want us to do. I think we try to talk to you guys. We try to tell you about different things on smaller scales, on bigger scales. Congress, Democrats, it's like the complacency is deafening. It's annoying. It's tiresome. And y'all are looking to us as if we started this mess, as if we are the ones that, as if we're perpetuating the mess. No. And I hate it. And so, you guys have to imagine how tired we are, and think about yourselves. Put yourselves in our shoes for a change. Really think about the world that y'all have left us with, and then got the nerve to act like we have to be the ones to fix it because we didn't start it. Even though the internet happened when we were teenagers, right? Like, those are still boomers and Gen Xers that created it in the first place. So now what? We just learned how to use it. But the same way you guys forced us into, all right, y'all have to learn this shit. You guys have to be fruitful. You guys have to figure out how we can work it so we can all get, yeah, but you do too. Some of that old way of thinking, in fact, all of that old way of thinking does not apply here anymore. You cannot just walk outside and put your phone up and say, I need a job that makes $250,000 working in the entertainment industry. It doesn't work like that. Because if it did, do you think we'd be sitting here talking to you about it? No. It doesn't. It doesn't. The expectation for us to now stop our lives to change the world that you fucked up is not it. And it is narcissism at its highest. So, that feels cathartic. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. And it is now time for our mixed media segment. So, the other day, I watched the BET Awards, the 2025 BET Awards, and you know what? I had a great time. It's 25 years since the BET Awards got started. So the first one was in the year of our Lord 2000, and they did a really nice homage to 106 in Park, just kind of the early 2000s all the way up until now. Really more of like a how far we've come. The performances were incredible, but one performance in particular that really knocked it out the park for me was the Kirk Franklin tribute. I mean, Oh my goodness. Now, of course, it came at the very, very end. So it's the last performance of the night, but he already has an incredible catalog of music to begin with, which is stellar. But what really took it up was they took their time with these arrangements. The vocals were on point. The sound was on point. Everyone looked good. Everyone sounded really great. My favorite part was DC Young Fly as a pastor, which I think someone needs to cast him as such because he did an excellent job as that as well. But also, they did a drill version of "Do You Want a Revolution?" Whoop, whoop. And that drill version was crazy to the point where I need to find it so I can add it to my workout playlist. It was fabulous. Kevin Hart is funny. He's funny. Like, his segment with Kai Cenat and Drewski was absolutely hilarious. I love that he, just made it playful and fun. I really did. I had a really great time, to the point where I started it over. It was that good that I was just like, okay, well, I will watch this again. So BET Awards was great this year. Shout out to Doechii. Doechii is just... First of all, Doechii reminds me of my late great aunt, Suzanne Patricia Alice, to Sandy's, as we know, as Aunt Patois. And she just is effortless and genuine and beautiful and talented. And I just love her. And she got up there and said a lot of the same shit that I have been sitting here talking about for the last hour or so. So shout out to Doechii. She did great in that speech. It was really quite moving. I thought all the tributes were great. I love me some Mariah Carey, and no one can tell me anything different. She just, my girl got out there looking spectacular. Not a hair out of place. That makeup is clean and on point. The jewelry, the outfit, everything. And she just literally stands and sings. And I eat it up every single time. And her tribute was great. I had a good time. I had a really, 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 really good time. Also, what I watched was the Tony Awards, because I am also a theater kid. And Cynthia Erivo, I know that the world has some words for Cynthia Erivo, and I get it, but listen, here's the truth. We all have a problematic faith. She's mine. And I'm all right with that, right? Like, people still like Chris Brown. People still like the baby. People still like all types of people they shouldn't like. I am going to like Cynthia Erivo. I'm sorry about it. We can boo tomato me. I get it. Everyone has a problematic fave. She's mine. Doesn't help that I saw her at Essence Fest one year and she gave me an incredibly moving and beautiful hug. But that's besides the point. She is a very funny host, very subtle, beautiful voice. The Tonys were so fun. It makes me miss theater every time I watch it. Every time I see them, it's like, ugh, I was so close. And I know it's not too late. I'm still figuring out my life every single day, especially now with a newbie. But, watching the Tonys is always inspiring. Carrie Young got to win the same award twice, 2 years in a row. So she won the same thing last year for Pearly, and now she won it again this year. And it's just kind of like, that's how you know you lit. Like, that's how you know you are out here. So that was really inspiring and great. I didn't see Sunset Boulevard. I don't quite know the story. I just know like that very famous line at the end of it. I'm sure it was a great piece. I think Nicole does have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful singing voice, and is immensely talented. It's just that I went to see Gypsy, and Audra McDonald put her entire ass into that role from start to finish. Every inch of hair, every every nail, everything. She put every single thing she owned into the role of Mama Rose. And it was a heartbreaking performance. Also deserves its own episode because the perspective from it coming from her specifically is very important. But Audra McDonald had a standing ovation for her performance of For Me. This Everything's Coming Up Roses. The show wasn't over, and she had a standing ovation. You had no other choice but to stand up and give it to. Even when I watched the Tonys, I was crying all over again. So for me, brutally robbed. But Audra McDonald, the look on her face was like, I'm fine. I won all of the Tonys that I was nominated for. I won, so I'm cool. And I think sometimes people think if you are gonna play the role of Mama Rose, it's almost like, it's like a rite of passage, but it can also feel like it's a cheat code. I don't know, but excuse me, she deserved the Tony for real. But again, whimsical, good fun. I think I'm interested in Buena Vista Social Club. I'm not sure. I think that looks fun. I like to sometimes watch the Tonys so I can get an idea of like shows that I'd like to see. I did see Samuel L. Jackson's wife was nominated for, I think, like best actress in a play, and she didn't get it, unfortunately. And then they do the thing where they can see you can see everybody's faces, and Samuel L. Jackson looked super annoyed, and that made me chuckle. But also another great show. So if you're interested in either of those, they are both now streaming on Paramount Plus. That's not an ad. It's just if you have something you'd like to do, if you missed the award shows. I love that they are on demand now. I remember a time when I had to tape them. I'm sure I can go back and find the Lady of Soul Awards that we taped when I was little. So it's nice that you can just pop them on and pause them and rewind them and order food and like watch it at your leisure. That really makes me quite happy. I am definitely an awards girly, mainly because I just want to see it. I'm paying attention to the shows. So I like to, pay attention to the shows, get invested in them, and then like, oh, they got an award for that. Also, on television, my husband and I have stumbled upon Adults on Hulu, and it is your typical, 5-person. They're all trying to make it as adults and just, not making the best decisions. But when I say it is so funny, it is so well acted, and it's very refreshing. It comes on Hulu. It has all new faces. Some faces that are familiar, but mainly, just newbies. And so it's just nice. It's nice to see newbies. They have it is ethnically diverse, so they have a little bit of something for everybody. But it's fun. It's well written. It's very well acted. Specifically, episodes, the last 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are absolutely hilarious. So I'm having a good time. Adults is great, and I think that covers it for TV. And now we're moving into music. So, okay, Mariah Carey, as I was telling you before, got up on stage and just stood there. Someone literally held the microphone to her face while they snatched her jacket off, and then we just saw her in this beautiful outfit. And it's just like Queen Don Diva. I love it. You know what I'm saying? I make enough money and I sing enough songs that I don't have to move around. I can literally just stand here and sing, and you will enjoy it. And I did. The other reason why I enjoy it is because I enjoy that new song. Now, I might have talked about it last week, but I'm going to keep talking about it. Type Dangerous is cute. It is a cute song. And she brought out Rakim during the performance, which I thought was a really nice touch. But the song itself is adorable. It is cute, especially that, oh yes, no, 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 no. I love the breakdown. And I have to cheers it up to, you know, her boyfriend in my head, Anderson .Paak. He wrote and produced the mess out of that for her. It's cute. Even the video, she's giving us a new look. We're used to Mariah. Mariah does what she likes, such as, you know, Girl After My Own Heart, born on March 27th. I keep it with the same, just give me the same look, but elevate it. She gave us a little smoky under eye. She gave us a red lip. Come on, y'all. Come on. Give it the chance it deserves, okay? It is cute. It is boppy. It has a little, you know, it's a little cute different sound. I appreciate that about Mariah, right? Like, despite how often people are like, girl, we're not interested, she keeps trying something new, and then she tries something new in her own way. The album before this with the, I think it was Caution. The first single was, How About You? Get the fuck out. I love that song. I've never heard Mariah curse like that. For her to have this sweet sounding, gentle voice, and that's the message. And then we move over here. It's like, yeah, I like him dangerous. And so what about it? Which, if you go back into your Mariah lore, I think, is it State Property or State Property 2 or Paper Soldiers? One of you will correct me, but she comes out of the truck and she curses Dame Dash out because that's what her character called for. And she's like, you're taking me shopping because the food was gross. You can't even carry my bags. Who are you? Do you know who I am? It's just like, oh, I love her. I'm sorry. And Type Dangerous is type cute. So love that song. Also, what I've been listening to almost on repeat is the clips are finally making a return. I am so excited for the clips to make their return. I was definitely a top down chrome spinning. That was my jam. Of course, who can forget the ever so classic doom doo doom, I'm your pusher, doom doo doom. Pusha T was one of my favorite rappers for a really, really long time, and then he was one of my favorite rappers along with an artist formerly known as Kanye West. Kanye West used to be like my number one, and right after that was Pusha T. And you know, we had a good run with that. And then there was a weird pause there for me when it was like, let's use Whitney Houston's bathroom as an album cover. And when they asked Pusha T about it, he was like, I didn't care about the picture. I just didn't want to pay for it. So that annoyed me. And so I've been taking a break. But now we are back. We are back in full force, ladies and gentlemen. It is not just Pusha T. It is Pusha T. It is Malice. It is the Clips. And they have dropped 2 songs that I love. It is Ace and Trumpets. I hope that's the right. No, Ace Trumpets. Not Ace and Trumpets. Ace Trumpets. I love the beat. I love Malice's verse. I love it. I find it to be just fun and mature. I love So Be It. I love the explanation behind that very last verse. I'm having a good time. I can't wait for the album. And, you know, listen, I have to pick my battles. Do I like the way Pharrell is treating Chad Hugo? No, I don't. Do I want it to be rectified so that I can go back? Not that I don't know these people. They don't know me. They don't pay none of my bills. You know what I'm saying? It's whack. I hate it. But, you know, there's not a violent crime happening here. And normally I would be out on a crusade. But if I'm being honest, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Every day's new, as I say a lot. I'm going to be listening to this album and I'm going to be enjoying it, okay? I'm very excited for Let God Sort 'Em Out. Ace Trumpets and So Be It are my jams right now. Also, Cardi B is back. She is back with Outside. Easily song of the summer, an instant bop, an instant vibe. Get on here and we're not even taught, like, clearly, you know what? I spent so much time, talking about girls and beef and all that. Let's get to the meat. Curse these niggas out. It's great. It's great. It's great. I'm sorry. I'm having a great time. I'm excited for her album too. I love she also dropped her album cover and the album title, which I think is hilarious. And it's like, Am I the Drama? Which is like, kind of, yeah, but I like that you're asking. And I like that, you're like, I'm confused. Is it me? And so I love that. And I love her. And I'm excited for her song. And the next on my list is Erykah Badu and The Alchemist are preparing for their joint album release. And they dropped a single called Next to You. And I like it. I think it still has to grow on me a little bit. I think people are pretty annoyed about the use of AI in the music video. So I kind of have to just go back and really dissect it. I can't sing it back to you, but I think I like it. I think it feels groovy. It feels very lo-fi vibes. But I can't sing it back to you just yet, which is typically not a great sign. But I think in this case, it just means that I have to listen to it more often. I'm also really just kind of excited to see what those two people will do together. I think that is just an interesting combination of people. If I'm not mistaken, I think The Alchemist is Scorpio and Erykah Badu is Pisces. And so those combinations of people together are always very interesting to see what kind of fun fruit roll-up things will they come up with next. Also, there's a new song by an artist. I think her name is Amari, Amaare. I might be pronouncing that wrong, and if I am, I'm so sorry. But she's a song out, SMO, and that has a really new. It just feels new. I don't know how else to describe it. It has it's like a sound I've never really quite heard before. I'm really enjoying these deconstructed kind of beats where it's just you have there's an obvious downbeat, but they're kind of going against the traditional rhythm. So I'm enjoying that a lot. So that's a nice knocker. And last but not least, Little Sims dropped a song called Enough. And so that's been fun as well. The Tiny Desk series has also been lovely. So first and foremost, Beanie Man's Tiny Desk just dropped the other day. And when I say it is good, clean fun, it plays all the jams, the transitions perfect, everything sounds good, perfect arrangement. He's in full voice. He looks great. His hair is giving, oh no, bring my mama back, but locks. Oh, I had a great time with that. It was lovely. He did Girls and Sugar. He just did them all. He did Girls and Sugar. He did Who Am I? He did them all. I think he did King of Dance Hall. He did it all. And it was perfect. A perfect Tiny Desk. And also Alex Isley. Now, Alex Isley, I just love. I love the tone of her voice. I love the timbre of her voice. I love her choices. It is my favorite kind of mature, easy listening. Sometimes I get a little can we, I'm in a space right now where I need my music to kind of move me, but I love her voice. Love her voice. And so her Tiny Desk was so sweet. We got to see her little personality as well. I loved her makeup. She looked great. Everybody looked great. Sometimes I watch the Tiny Desks and it's like, oh, I love the overall aesthetic in addition to the music. And for this, it was just pretty much kind of like she looked really cute. I think the background singers sang well and they coordinated with her, but it was just like good, easy listening. And I also love that. So those are for your YouTube pleasures as welly. And now it is time, if you've made it this far in the episode, it is now time for the lightning round.
Final round.
Nobody asked me, but I can name 2 Jim Jones songs. Nobody asked me, but Masks freak me out. Nobody asked me, but Aiden pisses me off. Nobody asked me, but Billy Blanks looks good still hitting it with that taboo. Nobody asked me, but Congress, are y'all at work? And nobody asked me, but just put his stuff out on the lawn. Put his stuff out on the White House lawn, block him, and change the locks. And that is another episode of Nobody Asked Me, but I thank you kindly for listening to my venting process today because our show is tired. You can listen to this anywhere you find podcasts. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. Be on the lookout for some new things coming to YouTube. Like and subscribe us on Substack. Don't forget to listen to your June's New Moon playlist that's out now on Apple Music and on Spotify. I think that's really legit all I have for you tonight. And I will see you next time. Bye.